Look, maybe the CA thing, maybe it's not for you. When you take stock and look back at your journey so far, number one, your marks don't signal that you're cut out for the CA thing. But number two, you have other odd interests that aren't tax, accounting, auditing, or financial management. But the world is changing. It's uncertain, volatile, complex, ambiguous, everything, everywhere, all at once. And don't even get me started on AI. We need all the weird and wonderful skills we can muster to remain relevant. As a CA, an aspiring CA, could your weirdness be your weapon? Today we are joined by Nikyle Perumaul, trade accountant at Glencore, SAICA trainee trailblazer finalist for 2024 and 2025, Microsoft Excel Championship finalist in 2024 and 2025, and an aspiring CA who is already eligible to register as a CASA. We chat about how bringing your passion back to your profession is the way forward for us to remain relevant. We also chat about the power of AQ for career success, what skills AI won't replace in CAs of the future, how business unites us all regardless of our background, the importance of innovation, his top lessons from the SAICA Awards, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA, very, very quick one. I just wanted to wish you the greatest week, a brilliant week, one of power and purpose and peace and war, whatever it is, whatever befalls you. I believe this episode coming up is one about excellence. And so I hope that you walk into excellence this week. Walk into your own excellence. With that, enjoy the show. Welcome back, my people. This is the Road to CA podcast. The show for aspiring chartered accountants to inspire, empower, and inform the difference makers of tomorrow. Today, guys, we're joined by a lover of innovation. He's a second-year associate at PwC Waterfall and, might I add, a SAICA trainee trailblazer finalist. Man, well done for 2024, by the way. So, he's the finalist right now. He's the current finalist. So much goodness to discuss on that. Most importantly, though, he dabbles in sports, playing pool, all things tech, and upskilling in his spare time. He's the aspiring CA of the future, I believe. We are joined by Nikyle Perumaul. Nikyle, how are you, bro?
I'm good, dude. I'm happy to be here. Excited to chat to everyone and just inform them of my story or whatever other questions are coming. You know, speak the truth, speak me.
Speak the truth. I love it, man. Let's go back to start with your truth. Let's go back to the truth of where CA began for you. Because it begins for all of us, it begins at different stages. Some of us, even before we're born, it kind of starts because your parents were. But what's your story?
Yeah, so I think when I was in high school, I'd say, I didn't know what I wanted to really do with my subjects. So I sort of picked a subject range that would allow me to do anything. But I knew I didn't want to be in the medical field. That was for me, I didn't want. I knew I was more towards the numbers, let's say that. So I went with the accounting, business, engineering and graphic design, and then physical science. A hard subject choice, I'd have to say. It was definitely a lot of work. And then, surprisingly, CA was actually not my first choice.
Sure.
What I want to be. I actually wanted to be an actuary. Unfortunately, my marks in matric weren't the greatest in, I think it was actually English. English wasn't the greatest mark.
Interesting.
So then I didn't get into.
To become an actuary, you have to be good at English as well. Right?
I mean, it's a certain requirement. I think like WITS for their program, they required a distinction in English.
Okay.
So I didn't actually get into WITS program. They did accept me at the UCT program.
Okay.
But I sort of wanted to study closer to home in those things. And I think my mom was also, so she's actually a diamond member of SAICA.
Okay.
So, but she's actually not a CA. So it was like
interesting.
So it was a weird thing
What is
for
she?
me. So she's just sort of like a management accountant.
Okay.
But she's worked for quite big companies
Yes.
like Unilever, Ferrero, Polo.
Would you say is she with SEMA? Is she SEMA
Yeah,
affiliated?
I think she's probably SEMA affiliated if I'm not mistaken. But then so she had a SAICA accreditation and stuff, and then I guess from that my financial background sort of stemmed my interest, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna go for this. So it was between those two, and CA was the one I went for. Yeah.
What I hear from this now, I'm starting to understand a little bit more about sort of where your mind is. You're not attached to a profession. I don't think. I think you want to stay abreast of things. Am I correct?
That's probably spot on. I don't think I've ever had like I'd say to any profession, I've never had like, I really want to be that. And I think that for me, I've seen as a benefit rather than a curse, because sometimes we can become a bit narrow-minded in what we do if we feel very passionate about it, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Passion is a good thing to have.
Yes.
But at the same time, in a changing world, for me, adaptability is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So when you're passionate about something, you're maybe not keen to adapt to something else, but then you need to bring that something else back to your passion. So I think for me, my benefit has been, or my passion has been towards adaptability. And that's what's benefited me and what I've really used to overcome many things and just get myself involved in other things.
Me and my friend yesterday, we were talking about, I don't know if I'm coining it, but I'll coin it for today. AQ. So, and we were talking about two sides of the same coin. So one of them was adaptability quotient, which is like, we always talk about like EQ and IQ, your emotional intelligence or your intellectual intelligence. But do we talk about your adaptability? Do we talk about how well you can pivot? Do we talk about whether or not, and this is the other side of the coin, you are able to deal with adversity? Adversity quotient is very linked to that adaptability quotient that we were thinking about, because if you think about the height of adaptability, adversity has to be with it. Your ability to deal with it, because when the going gets tough, that is the moment that you need to adapt. But that is also the moment that you need to push through. You need to choose whether to push or to pivot, but at the end of the day, you need to stay with it. You need to carry on.
Yeah. I think I'll probably challenge you on that a little bit.
Okay.
Now, why I say that is use the term adverse, right? Adverse, we usually have a negative connotation towards, it's something good. And then I go back to your point of adaptability quotient.
Okay.
If you're, let's say, good at adapting, is it possible for anything really to be adverse? And why I say that is because if an, let's say, adverse situation, let's call it that, approaches you, but you're good at adapting to it, is it not rather a growth situation? How can you truly test your adaptability without these adverse situations? And if you view that you are adapting to the situation, it can never be adverse because it'll just be growth. You're growing in yourself, you're learning how to overcome new things. And because you're overcoming it, it can never be adverse. It's always a good thing, not a bad thing.
I like the challenge. I think this is the type of reframe for me that it's powerful, because I think we do view challenge as adverse, as bad. Whereas if you see it as good, if you see it as a growth opportunity, then there is no challenge that's bad.
Exactly.
No, I do actually love that. You spoke about this now idea of so instead of your passion bringing you to a profession, you bring your profession to your passion. I really love that, and it gets into this idea that you spoke about in our brief call leading up to this, where you said in the profession we bring skills back to it. Now I'm starting to see how this sort of air of wanting to stay abreast, it's being channeled into even the profession and the way you think about it. Can you talk about that idea of bringing skills back to the profession that you were talking about?
Yeah, I guess along this trailblazer journey, a lot of
Yes.
the interviews and comments that I've done, I stick with the same concept where the CA profession is just a title, right? CASA now is grown to more than just a title. It's a lifestyle. And with any lifestyle, you learn new things. For example, now we're approaching that phase where maybe I'm finishing my articles. Now I'm looking more towards family-oriented things. Those become my new lifestyle, finding a house, those type of things. And the same too with the profession, Yes, we have the standards, we have the ethical views, the management accounting, the tax standard. Those are constantly being updated, But with your lifestyle, you've got to make things or bring things back to your lifestyle that you enjoy doing. And the same way in the profession, you've got to bring back skills that you enjoy doing, in order to take a profession that's so esteemed in the world, right? SAICA, global #1 at the moment. The only way we can elevate that profession is by bringing new skills to it. If we look at any profession, it will become more redundant as technology comes into it. If we look at, let's say, cars, for example, the mechanical engineers of old are being replaced of, let's say, software engineers of new. We see, especially with the electric cars and those things. So in the same way too, as a CA profession, the CAs of old being standard will be replaced with the CAs of new, the ones that adopt AI and those things. But remember, in our big four subjects, tax, accounting, management, AI and technology is not a subject. So instead of allowing the CA of old to be replaced by the CA of new, you bring skills to create the CA of new. The standards will always be the standards. The subjects will always be the subjects. So those new skills are what we have to bring back so we don't allow the CA profession to become redundant. And that's why I say if your passion is CA, if your passion is finance and accounting, then your passion now has to also be technology and those things. You have to bring it back. Make it a part of you. That's I think will solve a lot of people's fears about being replaced, right? You will only get replaced by someone who has what you have and more, never by someone that doesn't have what you have, right? Whenever you go to, let's say, buy a new car, you're not going to get a car that just only has new features. Your car still has to drive, and that's something your old car did. The car still has to get you from point A to point B. Now, even in a business mindset, the work still, let's say you're doing, like example, a recon. The recon still has to be done by that person. But how efficient the recon done, that's the person they're looking for. And that's why I say bringing new skills back to the profession makes you the person that is looked for. And I think that's important.
I'm going to challenge you again as well. So, my brother said this, and I think it's, I also want to hear your thoughts on it, but basically, AI is in many ways showing us how we have to today lean into more and more what makes us human. So, for an example, AI now it can write at a pretty proficient level. Literally, it can write your whole essay. And so what's really important to lean into is judgment. That's what AI doesn't really have. It doesn't have the ability to look at something and say, look, I don't know because this is on the fence whether we should go left or right, but I think we should go left, right? Another example is AI can't really imbue trust in other people, right? For an example. So when I speak and I speak to a potential investment, the way I speak, people will trust or not trust. And so now communication skills becomes an even more valuable skill in today's world, because now you've got things like hallucinations and you've got all these things, deep fakes. Oh my goodness. I saw, goodness gracious, man. Like,
Really crazy, yeah.
it's insane. Like, so you've got all these things that are making trust now even more valuable and even more scarce. And so your communication skills, your ability to transfer that trust is becoming really important. To circle back, you mentioned how one person will replace the person who has less skill than them, or rather the one person won't be replaced by someone who can do what they can do or less. They'll be replaced by the person who can do what they can do and more. I'm a big believer of this philosophy by Peter Thiel of don't be the best, be the only. Because when you essentially do what other people do, so like basically if we're talking about that scale that you're talking about, like you've got X number of skills, you're a CA, right? We're all CAs. If you focus on being a CA, right, and you want to be a CA with this extra skill, then you're going to be potentially the best. Whereas if you focus on, I think you don't have to focus on being the CA. I think it happens. That's my thing around it. But I think the real focus for me is that extra skill. It's that thing. But I don't think it necessarily is everyone must do digital per se. I think digital's too big a term, but let's say AI. Everyone has to be an AI person. I think maybe your extra is that you are a consummate communicator. You know how to speak. You know how to. I think everything has to be. It has to be multiplied by tech. I think, like, let's call that you have content creation skills. That's more tech oriented, but that's on the communication side. It has nothing to do necessarily with AI. So, what do you think about that idea?
I mean, I agree with you. What I say is, I think it speaks to my point exactly, and I'll even use like the words you said. Content creation skills, right? So, our profession now, our title, CA. And why I say you bring the skill back to the profession is because right now you have content creation, CA. They're seen as almost two separate professions.
Yeah.
You know? So our job by bringing it back is to create that new market where recruiters and companies are like, okay, we need a CA and we need content creator for marketing. But wait a minute, CAs can do content creation. So why not get one? And it just speaks to your point of, don't have to be the best, be the only, right? If you're bringing a skill set back to the profession that's never been brought before, you'll always be the only. You'll be the first, right? And when you're the first, people will look for you to help create more. And when you lead the wave, then the others will follow too. Right? Yeah. But at the same time, that's both a blessing and a curse. I look to when we were developing earlier in the year, and the skills I had gained, let's say, so my passion is technology, right? Yeah. So that's why I say I bring technology back.
Yes.
When we were learning developing skills, with the introduction of Copilot and AI, the Copilot could do a lot of our developing skills. So that passion I had, that skill I had of bringing tech back became redundant. But that made me try and go look for a new skill, right? And that new skill would have been how to use AI. I spoke on with our VAC work students that came in, I think about 2 weeks back. Okay. And I explained to them that one of the most important things we'll see in the coming years is prompt engineering, right? And it goes back to say, AI can't use judgment, right? What you ask it is what it's going to give you. So if you're asking the wrong thing, it's not going to give you the wrong thing. And that's what it's about. I was working on developing something yesterday, and I asked AI a question, and it couldn't give me an answer. So I had to try and figure out what is the right way of asking it. I mean, I tried multiple times, and it still couldn't give me an answer. I was actually kind of shocked. So I sat there stumped, and I explained to the people at work, I'm just going to sit around you guys and listen to your conversations, what you guys are saying, and maybe it'll stem something in my brain, and it actually did. It was something someone said completely random. It had nothing to do with what I was doing, but it just put me in that mindset where I was thinking about it in a calmer light. I put myself in a good environment, because as much as AI is there and it can maybe process things faster, it's always processing things from a known source, right? And like you said, AI has hallucinations, but we as humans have imagination.
Can you actually explain what hallucinations are?
So hallucinations, the concept is just, as the simplified is, the AI gives you a wrong answer because of the information it's sort of been fed on, has taught it that this is most likely the right answer, and then it sort of imagines, right? Or it's hallucination, sort of like dreams that this is the correct answer, and it gives you that, and then that's,
But it's not.
But it's not. It's not the correct.
It's not
answer.
even like. Yeah. It's not true.
Yeah. So
Doesn't
they have
exist.
in the, I think it's I can't remember, in like the natural language models that they have, where they have one sort of two AIs that speak to each other in those terms, that critique each other's work, and then eventually something will pass through that isn't correct. So that's sort of like what a hallucination thing. Well, that's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's why I always say we have imagination, and that's what's important. That's what differentiates us, and that's something that we have to use in everything that we do.
That's what makes us human.
Exactly.
So it makes us human. You said one of your biggest pain points in your road to becoming a CA so far has been not finding enough time to upskill. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think when in my first year, I used to do a lot of upskilling in the nighttime. I'll be honest, I did sacrifice a little bit of sleep. But in the long run, it's really helped me, is what I think. I think we get so stuck in maybe this. So I did audit articles. There's also different types of articles that you can do.
Yeah.
And with the audit articles, when it's busy season, it really is busy season, right? The hours become longer. It's the truth of the matter. But I think it's important that if you stick to a schedule and you sort of leave time every day to upskill yourself, to learn something new, it really benefits you. And I've always said, like, I wish I had more time to upskill, more times to do things. But nowadays, with the APC, for example, APC and stuff this year, that was a whole new level of, I don't want to say upskilling, but it is still learning, because you're learning writing techniques and those things. And that sort of replaced my other upskilling, which was tech. And that's why I wish I had more time to do both. But there is only 24 hours in the day. There's only so much your brain can handle. But I think as you learn more skills and you become not necessarily a master of it, to someone that's more familiar with it, it becomes easier to upskill. I think for me, especially in the tech environment, there's so many coding, designing languages that we type in, and they're all similar to some extent. So, I mean, if you look at South Africa, of our 11 natural languages, if you speak some of the languages, you'll start to pick up patterns that are quite similar in those. And that's how you get people that speak so many languages. They find that pattern. And the same is for anything we upskill in. If you find that pattern, you'll get good at it. You take time out of your day and you get through it. And I just wish I had more time in my day to do more things.
But I think what's really liberating is the idea that if you can start in one language, for this example, if you can start with one leg or one sect of a thing, so like people want to learn IT, that's way too big and daunting. Like, learn about, like, in terms of if you want to code, no, learn Python.
Exactly.
What you find is Python syntax which is basically the way that the formulation of the code is. So, like, basically the structure of the words that you type in order to create the code, it will be similar to this language. Literally, I remember, so we did IT in school and we did SQL. So it was a database management language. It's exactly the same as Excel, largely. Not exactly, but largely. And so when you learn Excel, you're learning SQL and you're learning pretty much the syntax for many database management languages. Like,
Yeah.
so now you've basically opened up a new world. So when you learn one thing in something, you're actually learning the basics for many things.
I think the one thing I can probably say is the most important language is business language.
Oof.
And why I say it's business language is because business language is made up of all languages. And when I say languages, I mean tech, medical, those things. So I agree with you when you say, for example, the concept of IT is too big, and that's true. The most important thing is when you learn any language or any aspect of a language, it puts you into the business language. And what that means is it gets your foot into the door, into a conversation that you normally would not be part of. And when you get into that conversation, you learn a bit more. For example, let's say you're studying CA, you're doing the podcast, those things. Maybe you don't have the IT background, but the little bit that you spoke about now, SQL, those things, it got us involved in the conversation. And when you speak to someone who's more involved in their language, you learn their language because you were in the business language.
It's like now I'm becoming the touch point for CAs to, like, that might have been the first time that a CA or aspiring CA has ever heard the word SQL. Was ever like had SQL mentioned in their life.
Exactly. And I think I look at the SAICA awards that they had last week. We met so many industry leaders in those things. Like, I was never involved in the education industry at all. But there was people from, I think it's Imvelo, those companies as well.
Novalo,
No, sorry, Novalo. Sorry.
Yeah.
That were there. And then suddenly I was involved in the education thing. And I have no background in it, but the language was business, right? Because business is what unites us all. And because we're all there, you network, you learn more. People give you the opportunity to learn more. People want you to learn more. Because those people in the business language want to see CAs aspire, inspire, create new things. They're trying to give us the opportunity to bring skill back. So why not take it,
The business language. That is, for me, that's huge, because I think when you're like in the journey, you forget that you're actually learning the building blocks of an axiom of the world. Business is literally, it's an axis of the world. And so when you learn the language, you're learning a universal language.
Exactly.
It's like the language, it's like, for me, like now into another realm, it's like the language of non-verbal communication. That's actually a language that's actually human. There are nuances per culture in some cases, like if you're talking about symbols. So like a middle finger is different per culture. Like, not all cultures have like middle finger means anything. Like, I think there was one culture where a thumbs up was a bad thing. I remember hearing that from somewhere.
Interesting.
But for the most part, there's basics. It's like open gestures. That signals warmth. That signals, listening. All these types of things that are pretty instinctual. So now, when you learn the language of those, then you're learning. Also facial expressions is another axiom, is another principle, or it's another element of the body language sort of language. But when you learn business, you're learning a whole language that many people in a particular realm understand. I don't think everyone understands business. And that's why we have situations like where content creators don't know how to make money. And musicians don't know how to make money because they don't understand business. But I think in our world, business it's a base.
Yeah.
In the world of, I guess, value creation.
As we get involved in more industries, and I think the future CAs that are listening will see, is as you begin to audit, you'll begin to understand more industries more. And I think it's important to not get into the crux of, I'm auditing, I'm doing a procedure to get comfort over this FSI, get us a surgeon. The real reason you're doing articles, and that's what APC and SAICA tries to promote, is they want to make sure that you have the professional competence in all the industries. That's why they give you a random industry. You never know what industry it's going to be. It's very important that when you go into articles, when you finish studying, that you make it your business to understand the business. Understand the industry, understand the people,
understand how the business makes money.
Exactly.
I heard from Uwais Asmal. He's a phenomenal CA. He's a content creator on LinkedIn. He does like another podcast called 2 Ways to Skin a Cat. Really nice one. But he said there's people that he's met that have audited a company but don't know how it makes money. Although you don't necessarily have to know to be a trainee to obtain the management rep letter. Like, are you not there to learn? Like, you could literally ask the CFO, what's your business model? You could literally, like, they're sitting right there. You could, like, what's the driver? You could ask that, but you don't.
I think, that's for me. So I'm currently doing my articles in the private assurance business.
Yes.
So we do get exposure to a lot of our maybe smaller clients, but we also have JC listed, some bigger clients as well. And I think what I've really enjoyed about it is that aspect of, for example, if you're auditing a company like MTN, there's probably a high chance you're probably not going to speak to the CFO of the company in those bigger companies. But when it comes to your smaller private companies, the person you probably directly working with is the CFO, is the group financial accountant. And you get to see like how they want the business to model. These are multinational companies that are earning revenue in multiple streams, multiple locations, and those things. And I think more importantly, as you begin to understand their business, you begin to understand them. And you need to, when you understand them, it's not that you need to mimic them or do what they do. It's understanding what drives them to do what they do. Why are they making that decision? Not what decision did they make? Because why they're making that decision may lead to you making a different decision. They may have a choice between Google and Microsoft. Why did they choose Google? Maybe within their preference. Why you choose Microsoft might be your preference. And that's the important, is the why. Why are they doing something, not what did they do? And then you go to another industry, like one of my other companies, and you see why they do that. Then you realize, they're just trying to be industry leaders. These people are trying to be product leaders. It's about, they want more market share. They just want to, for example, acquire companies that have market share. Those things. And I think that's what a lot of people really don't try to do when they get there. They start to feel overwhelmed by the new workload and those things. And they forget that the reason why you do, and it pains me to say, LORs and those things, which really hit you once you start doing your articles, you didn't know were coming. But the LORs and stuff are there to make sure that you have the necessary competencies and to guide you on this journey of learning. But it does not limit you on your journey of learning. And that's what is important. Use the institutions to learn, because that's what they're there for. Articles that's the reason articles are there. It's not just so you get practice so you can be a better CA. It's just so you can just be a better person in business. And I think that's what's important.
You mentioned you're in the private assurance space, and you spoke of this idea in our prior call, but I want to hear your thoughts, and I want you to share with aspiring CAs more on it, of the importance of innovation in these spaces. I remember you mentioned how clients grow, but the team doesn't. What is the importance of innovation in audit?
I think so. Innovation doesn't necessarily only mean tech, right? I think innovation is about reimagining what's possible, new ideas, new concepts, those things. So if we look at the way audits are done, right? We now have some centralized functions. This is just how we do it at PwC, for example, that audit certain FSLIs, whether it's our cash accounts payable, accounts
financial
receivable.
statement line items. Just
Yes.
just for the layman. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. You'll get used to it. There's just so many acronyms.
LORs and TTLs.
Yeah, there's just so many acronyms at this point. It's actually crazy. I think we built a web page with acronyms of the acronyms. It was getting too much at some point. Like a TLA, for example, which stands for 3-letter acronym. It's kind of ironic that it is.
TLA is a TLA.
Exactly. So when you have these centralized functions that audit specific FSLIs, you realize that if things can become centralized, then the audit teams don't necessarily need to be as big. Everybody becomes a specialist in what they test, and the more you specialize in something, the less people they sort of need, right? But with that being said, if you're, for example, a trainee accountant that's testing, let's say, operating expenditure in the first year, most likely you're going to stay on that client and test it in the second year because you're familiar with the client. But remember, the business model of everybody is to grow their revenue year on year, grow the company year on year. So that means everything is going to grow year on year. But that doesn't mean that they necessarily need more people to test it. You're still going to be the same person testing it. So when it comes to that, the growing volumes of data we see, the company's growth that we see, for one of my clients, because I brought a technological aspect to it in terms of automation, it allowed us to test more on the file, get more assurance, integrate more with the reports that were coming from the client. So much so, like, before I got there, the client was attempting to edit something in their software to be able to create a report for us. But then once I'm there, I could use their old report and create it myself. It's that aspect where you become integrated with the audit. You become part of the audit, and then you pass that knowledge down. So the team sizes we see become, as more things become centralized, as the team sizes become small, because these big corporates, they do expect efficiencies. That's why they invest so much of money in technology. You have, for example, PwC in the last year, they invested about $1 billion from all the territories across the world in technology. But what they've done is they've given us access. They're not forcing us to use the tech. But what they expect from us is, they're spending so much money to give access, that anybody is willing to go and use it. There's so many things that the companies do. You get there, you get your contract, right? What's the first thing we do? We look at the salary, obviously. Right? I mean, I don't know how many people actually look at the job spec when they're signing their training contract. Probably not many, because they're like, I'm just going to do articles. They look at the salary, then they look at the benefits. They see medical aid, they see those things. But do you ever ask yourself, once you get to the company, what other benefits do they have that are outside of my contract? We forget that the contract we're signing is basically a learnership.
It's a learnership, yeah.
Exactly. So those companies have those learning ideas. They have those courses, e-learns, whatever you want to call it, whatever your company calls it. They have those there. They may not necessarily be in your contract, but that's their commitment to their people. What makes their people happy, what can cause their people to grow. They make the investment. So it's about you just using that investment, and it's very important that innovation in audit is about new ways of testing things. It's about seeing things differently. And it goes back to what we just spoke about. If you don't understand what your business does, you cannot test it in a different way. You're going to get stuck with the old way they test it. And that's what's, I think, in the auditing profession has led to like so much of maybe errors, oversight. People got too comfortable. Back to my first point earlier. People got too comfortable in the way they were doing it. Right? And when you're too comfortable in your way, you'll miss out on new things. Our reasonable assurance, how reasonable is it anymore? What are we understanding the risks in the client? And as the client grow, have we identified new risks? By testing one account in, let's say, a new way possible, through innovation, through technology, through just value add, you may discover problems in another account. For example, if let's say your revenue is overstated, it could be something that you pick up from your VAT testing. Why is our output VAT so low but our revenue so high? It could be because we are overstating revenue, or are we understating VAT? that we pay over to SARS. See, and that's only comes from your business understanding how the financial statement line items are linked to each other. And that's where innovation comes in. Reimagine the possible, create new ideas, have fun with what you're doing. It's they almost want to call it taboo when we say creative accounting, but you sort of have to be creative to find creative accounting. Creative accounting is a bad concept, but being creative is not.
And I was literally thinking about this is such a feat of creativity. And there's that Steve Jobs quote of creativity is just a function of connecting dots. And in this case, dots is basically knowledge. Dots is, what is revenue? As an accounting student, you should know what revenue is. What is VAT? What is output VAT? As an accounting student, you should know these things. And what's the link? And I feel like that's such a beautiful thought for me, that one day you'll be able to connect the things. And I feel like that's what CTA is a lot of, trying to, they sort of force you into connecting, they just integrate stuff. You just have, now they're saying, how much tax is this guy paying? You're like, what? And now you have to know this tax and that tax, and now that tax links to this tax. And they're just integrating through subjects. Now you're going to have to learn creativity effectively. I don't think anyone's ever thought of that, but in CTA, you're learning a lot of creativity.
Yeah, you're learning how things integrate to each other. Although we learn the subjects separately, I think because of the difficulty of them and how they are, we forget that they all just link to one business. Everything is linked to one business. So understanding all aspects of it, understanding all aspects of the subject, example, the tax act, it goes so deep with everything, but not everything is really applicable to what you do.
Yeah.
We say IT is a big of a concept. Business is a big of a concept. You can be it sounds weird to say, but you can be a specialist in not specializing. You can be someone who's all around, but just involved in every conversation. And I think it's important when you address people or people ask you questions, it's okay to be like, I don't know. But it's important to tell them, I'll find you an answer. Not because, yes, you don't want to disappoint them, but you must remember, finding them an answer is what makes you learn. It's upskilling you so that when the next person asks you that same question, or just ask the question in general, you can be the one that puts your hand up. In the big world of business, if I look at APC, we wrote about 2 weeks ago, there was about 3,000 people just at Gallagher alone. So you can imagine in the country, maybe 5,000, 6,000 wrote. There's only 4 big fours, for example.
Yeah.
Do you just want to be one of the 6,000, or do you want to be someone whose name is known? Right? Your name doesn't have to be known for doing something special, but your name needs to be known as the first point of contact. You always want people to be looking for you, not because they think you have the answer, because they know that you're willing to find the answer. And I think in business, it's more important than, instead of being someone who knows it all, to be someone who's reliable. And that comes from putting your hands up and getting uncomfortable and just going out there and searching for answers.
Choosing to go back to that thought, choosing enjoyment over comfort, because it's a fine line. That's the sort of thesis for me from that statement, because when you choose, you're basically choosing the quote unquote adversity and the tough stuff, which is not adverse. It's actually a good thing. It's a growth opportunity. When they ask you a tough question, that means you have the opportunity to find the answer, even if you don't have it, which is I think it's phenomenal, man. The SAICA Awards. What would you say is your greatest lesson walking out of those?
I think just from seeing the other finalists and listening to their stories, it was amazing to see what is happening all around the country, what other people are doing. And it showed me the aspects of what skills they're bringing back to the profession. And I think it goes to my point earlier where I say, and your point where you say you want to be the only one doing it. Well, at the same time, if someone else has already brought it here, they may be the only one there. They're already the leader, but it doesn't mean that I don't need to learn it. You know, because I know someday I'm going to bring a new skill back. But it goes back to my saying is they're not going to get someone who doesn't have the old skill. They want the old skill and the new skill. They want the best of both worlds. So I think from the SAICA Awards, seeing maybe the social impact a lot of the people had, the resilience impact that a lot of people had, those are not skills that I primarily focused on earlier, but it's skills I know that in the coming year I need to adopt as I go to find a new skill to bring back. You know, for me, the networking and just meeting the people, understanding their story, and just in the same way as I said, we need to understand how people do in business, what they do, for what reason. I needed to understand what keeps these future trailblazers, these future CAs driving, and why they do it. Because understanding their why helped me add to my why. You know, what their stories did is inspired my future story to come. You know, it's given me a new branch, a new aspect of something new that I can do in the years to come. And I think that's what I really saw the awards as, you know, a collaborative effort that for the profession is a good thing.
Yeah. It links to what one of my biggest lessons from the profession, you sort of touched on it, around, for me, the hugest thing that I saw was how important it is to master your story. Incredible backgrounds, incredible stories. And you mentioned how seeing other people's skills in resilience and other people's skills in social impact, they inspire you to build yours. I believe that it's because of their skills of telling the story that inspired you. And so when you master your story, and I mean, look at the winner, you know, Kitio, absolutely phenomenal. Her story, not just the actual work that she's doing, which is phenomenal, and it's incredible the impact that she's making, but the way she tells the story, the way she can advocate for it, that for me is huge. And there's this interesting book that I'm about to read that I've done some pre-reading on, called Backable, which is basically a guy studied a bunch of people in history, successful people in history, as to what made them backable, whether that was via investment, whether that was via people following them. And one of the main things was their communication skills. And I believe, man, that for me is huge. That being able to master the story that you have. Because everyone has it, eh?
Yeah.
Everyone's got something to tell.
Yeah. Everyone has their own story, how they grew up, how they view things. And it's always important just to be open to new perspectives, different perspectives. You know, you may not always agree with what someone is saying, but it doesn't, even if you don't agree with it, doesn't mean you need to argue it. You know, maybe it's actually more beneficial to you to understand why their story is that way. You know, what drives that person, or what changed that person's path. You know, you don't have to always be confrontational or cause a conflict about it. You know, the reason they did something is because of something, and sometimes you just need to understand that something.
Yes.
You know, it's because you never know. One day that something might affect you, and then you may find yourself lost, and you think back to a story someone told you back then, the same way you think back to a quote from a book or from your pre-reading. You're always thinking back. So in order to keep thinking back, you need to keep speaking to people, communicate with people.
Perspectives, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
New perspective may not always add to your perspective, but it is a perspective. And that's what's important.
I think it'll always, actually, to be honest. The new perspective might add to your perspective to say that I'm actually even more resolute in my perspective. True. It can even say, that's not what I want for my life. So literally just to talk to someone who's living a life that you don't want to live can make you even clearer that you don't want to live that life.
Exactly.
You know?
True.
If you could go back to first year, second year, maybe even high school, Nikyle, what would you tell him?
Let's think. The obvious answer, Bitcoin, right? I think that's the obvious answer. No, I'm kidding. I think if I had to go back, I probably wouldn't tell him anything. Because if I go back and say, do this, do that, make sure you do this, it may not put me on the path where I am now. The path where I am now, I've learned so much because of the decisions he made back then. I think the only thing I could possibly say that may not change the path is, you're doing the right thing. And that's about it. Because any decision I make from now going forward is a decision I can be proud of, is a decision that I wanted to do. And that's why the path should never be changed, because it leads up to where you are in the future.
Keep doing it. I think presence is proper in getting to this moment. He did it. He did something right. So trust the decisions that you make. I think that's a great thing that you did, was you actually made the decision. You didn't just let the world or the wind blow you left and right. You decided. And I think that's commendable. And to all of those on the road, make your decisions and trust yourself. Guys, if you have not already, please follow this. And absolutely, your LinkedIn will be linked in the show notes so that people can connect. Yeah. Absolutely consider this whole SAICA Trainee Trailblazer Awards, guys. It's a phenomenal new awards. I think first awards was 2021.
I think this is the first year they had the SAICA Awards. Before it was something else.
This is the first one that we've had, the SAICA Awards. And I think, yes, there hasn't been a great celebration like this of trainees.
Phenomenal for
Incredible,
networking. It was amazing.
It's incredible. So, guys, look at it as a carrot to chase, as something to inspire yourself. And learn from the likes of Nikyle. Connect with him and chat with him about his experiences.
Always open to chatting to people. So just pop me a message on LinkedIn and those things.
I hope that it does not end, but that it begins in CASA. Nikyle, brother, thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.